There comes a point where continuing to prove your worth becomes more draining than empowering. When you're constantly trying to be seen, understood, or appreciated by people who have already made up their minds about you, you end up abandoning parts of yourself in the process. You adjust your tone, your energy, your boundaries, all in hopes that maybe this time they'll get it. Maybe this time they'll notice your effort, your intentions, your heart. But over time, you start to realize something critical. Those who are unwilling to see your worth are often committed to not seeing it, and it has nothing to do with you. The need to prove yourself can quickly become a trap. It makes you believe that if you just do more, be more, try harder, you'll finally earn the validation you've been waiting for. But people who truly see you don't need a performance. They recognize your value in how you carry yourself, how you show up, how you live. They don't need to be persuaded because their respect isn't conditional on how well you fit into their preferences or expectations. And when someone's respect is conditional, you'll never feel safe being full yourself around them anyway. It's not your responsibility to awaken someone's ability to appreciate you. It's your responsibility to protect your energy and stand in your truth. Every moment you spend chasing acknowledgement from those who've already chosen not to see your light is a moment lost from nurturing the parts of yourself that truly matter. And eventually, that chase begins to wear on your confidence. You start questioning your instincts. You wonder if you're too much or not enough. But it's not you. It's their blindness to what you bring. And that blindness isn't yours to fix. There's a quiet strength in knowing who you are, even when others don't. It allows you to walk away from disrespect without bitterness. It gives you the freedom to create your own definition of worth, one that isn't tied to applause or agreement. You begin to see that not every closed door is a loss. Sometimes it's a redirection. Sometimes it's the universe protecting you from spaces where you'd constantly have to prove yourself to survive. You don't need to keep explaining your intentions. You don't need to water yourself down to fit someone else's comfort zone. You don't need to shrink just to be digestible. The right people will meet you at your full height. They'll understand your value without you having to translate it or justify it over and over. And they will stay, not because you begged them to, but because they genuinely recognize your worth. This doesn't mean you move through life with arrogance or disregard. It means you learn discernment. You learn when to speak and when to stay silent, when to engage and when to walk away, when to fight for something and when to let go with grace. And most importantly, you learn that your worth is not a debate. It is not a negotiation. It is not something to be proven. It is something to be lived, embodied, and protected. You deserve to be in spaces that feel like peace, not performance. You deserve relationships that feel like growth, not convincing. And you deserve to walk through life with your head high, knowing that the right people won't need proof, they'll feel it in your presence. So stop trying to prove your worth to those who are unwilling to see it. Your energy is better spent becoming everything you were meant to be, unapologetically. When someone fails to recognize your value, it's easy to take it personally. You might start questioning yourself, wondering if you're not doing enough or being enough. But the truth is, their inability to value you says far more about them than it does about you. It's a reflection of their own mindset, their own blind spots, and their own limitations, not a mirror of your worth. People can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And if they haven't done the work to recognize worth in others, they won't know how to see yours. That's not your fault, and it's not your responsibility to fix. Everyone carries their own filters, shaped by past experiences, fears, insecurities, and beliefs. These filters affect how they perceive others. Sometimes people are so caught up in their own narratives that they can't see beyond them. They may not know how to acknowledge strength that looks different from theirs. They may feel threatened by confidence, confused by authenticity, or indifferent to kindness. Their reaction has nothing to do with your intent or your value. It has everything to do with what they haven't yet healed or understood in themselves. When someone undervalues you, it can feel like rejection, but often it's projection. They're projecting their limitations onto you, their discomfort with growth, or their fear of vulnerability. It's easier for some people to dismiss what they don't understand than to confront what it reveals about their own limitations. Rather than stretching their perspective, they label or ignore. That response is about their capacity, not your credibility. You don't need to internalize their inability to see you as a sign that you are invisible. This is why it's important to not seek your identity in how others respond to you. If you hand over your sense of worth to someone else's recognition, you're placing it in unstable hands. You are worthy whether or not someone affirms it. You bring value whether or not someone acknowledges it. Your light shines whether or not someone has the eyes to see it. You are not less because they are unaware. Their lack of vision doesn't equate to your lack of brilliance. Trying to gain the approval of someone who lacks the emotional or spiritual maturity to value you is a losing battle. You can bend, explain, perform, and still feel unseen, not because you're not visible, but because they are not ready or able to see clearly. There's freedom in realizing that not every opinion should carry weight, especially when it comes from someone operating from their own wounds or limited perspective. Instead of changing yourself to fit within someone's limited view, rise above it. Don't dim your light to make others comfortable with their darkness. Don't compromise your integrity to be palatable. Choose to remain rooted in your truth. Keep showing up fully, even when others can't meet you there. Let their inability to appreciate you remind you of what they still have to grow into, not what you need to shrink into. You are not made to be understood by everyone. You are made to live in alignment with your purpose, regardless of who recognizes it. Some people won't value you until others do. Some won't value you until you're no longer available. But you don't need to wait for them to understand in order to keep becoming who you are. Trust your path. Respect your value. And remember, being overlooked by someone limited in their view is not a sign that you are lacking. It's simply proof that you're beyond the level they're currently operating on. Not everyone will be capable of seeing your value. And that's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their limitations. Too often we absorb the reactions of others and turn them into evidence against ourselves. When someone overlooks, dismisses, or underestimates us, it's tempting to believe that we are the problem, that we need to change something about who we are or how we show up. But the truth is, other people's inability to value you usually has little to do with you and everything to do with what they have not yet resolved within them. People can only perceive others through the lens of their own experience. If someone is insecure, they may feel threatened by your confidence. If someone hasn't learned how to respect themselves, they may not know how to offer you respect. If someone has lived with fear, scarcity, or unhealed pain, their view of others is often clouded by those wounds. You may bring light, but they can only see through their own shadows. You may speak with clarity, but they can only hear through their own noise. Their failure to appreciate you doesn't mean you're not worthy of appreciation. It means their lens is limited. This is why proving yourself to the wrong people becomes an exhausting cycle. You try harder, give more, show up louder, hoping that if you just reach the right level of performance or explanation, they'll finally get it. But their inability to see your value isn't about what you're doing or not doing. It's about their readiness, their growth, their emotional capacity. And no matter how brightly you shine, someone who has chosen to look away will still say, "It's dark." Understanding this truth is freeing. It allows you to stop internalizing rejection. It allows you to stop shrinking to fit into someone else's narrow view. When someone fails to recognize your value, you don't have to argue with them. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to contort yourself into a version they can understand. All you need to do is remain true to who you are. Their inability to see you does not make you less. Your worth does not vanish in the presence of their blindness. Often, people devalue others because it helps them avoid confronting their own inadequacies. Elevating you would mean acknowledging something they're not yet ready to face in themselves. So instead, they downplay, they dismiss, they look away. It just make them bad people. It just means they're still growing. But you don't need to stand still waiting for them to catch up. You can keep rising. Let their silence teach you to listen to your own voice. Let their doubts strengthen your trust in your own vision. Let their rejection redirect you to people and places where your light is not just seen, but celebrated. Because those people exist, the ones who won't need a long explanation, who will feel your presence and recognize your value without needing to be convinced, those are your people. And they will never make you question your worth to feel comfortable in theirs. So hold your head high. Walk away from environments that require you to earn basic respect. Refuse to measure your value by how palatable you are to someone else's insecurity. Know this: you are not defined by who fails to understand you. You are defined by the quiet truth you carry and the way you honor it, even when no one claps. Keep growing, keep building, keep becoming. Their limits are not yours. Validation is one of the most powerful forces in shaping how we feel about ourselves, and too often, it's something we search for outside. It starts early. Seeking praise from parents, approval from teachers, acceptance from peers, we're taught, sometimes unconsciously, that our worth is confirmed when others agree with us, like us, applaud us. But this dependence on external validation becomes a trap. It makes our confidence fragile because it depends on something we cannot control: other people's opinions, moods, and perceptions. Relying on external validation means your sense of self rises and falls with how others treat you. When they notice you, you feel valuable. When they overlook you, you question your worth. When they applaud your efforts, you feel confident. When they criticize you, you shrink. This pattern creates emotional instability. It disconnects you from your inner compass and forces you to constantly scan the outside world for reassurance that you are enough. But real freedom, the kind that allows you to live boldly and truthfully, begins when you stop waiting for someone else to tell you that you're okay. Internal validation is the quiet, unshakable knowing that you are already worthy. It comes from deep self-awareness, from spending time with yourself, understanding your intentions, learning from your experiences, and honoring your growth. It's what allows you to keep moving forward even when no one is watching or cheering. It's what helps you hold your ground when others don't agree with your choices. It's what lets you take risks, speak honestly, and stand tall, even in uncomfortable spaces. When you validate yourself from within, you don't need approval to feel powerful. You already are. This doesn't mean shutting out feedback or living in isolation. It means filtering feedback through your own self-trust. You can hear other people's thoughts without letting them override your intuition. You can be open to learning without making every opinion a command. You can welcome support without becoming dependent on it. Internal validation gives you the power to choose what truly aligns with who you are, instead of blindly following what others expect of you. People often chase validation through achievement, appearance, relationships, or performance. But no amount of likes, awards, or praise will ever fill a void that only self-acceptance can. The momentary high of external approval fades quickly, and without a solid internal foundation, you're left chasing the next source. It's a never-ending cycle until you break it by turning inward. Choosing to validate yourself is a daily decision. It means giving yourself credit when you've shown up with courage, even if the results weren't perfect. It means speaking kindly to yourself when things go wrong, instead of waiting for someone else to reassure you. It means celebrating your own progress, defining your own success, and honoring your own values, whether or not the world recognizes them. There's nothing more powerful than someone who trusts themselves. When you are anchored internally, you become untouchable in the best way, not because you're arrogant, but because you're centered. You can walk into any room without needing to dominate or disappear. You can pursue your path without needing to defend every step. You can lead, create, and grow without waiting for applause. In a world that constantly pressures you to seek outside approval, choosing to validate yourself is an act of rebellion and of self-respect. It is the foundation of true confidence. And once you build it from within, you stop chasing worth and start embodying it. You stop performing and start living. You become your own source, and no one can take that away. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful and essential acts of self-respect. It is a declaration to yourself and the world that your time, energy, and well-being matter. It's not about building walls or pushing people away. It's about knowing your limits, protecting your peace, and honoring your own needs without guilt. When you set boundaries, you're not being selfish. You're being clear. You're refusing to abandon yourself to accommodate others. Boundaries teach others how to treat you. Without them, people will operate according to their own expectations, not yours. They may overstep, demand too much, or take advantage, not always out of malice, but often because they don't know what matters to you unless you show them. And when you let things slide too often, you silently communicate that your needs are negotiable. But the truth is, when you constantly prioritize others at the expense of yourself, resentment grows. Your energy gets depleted. Your identity starts to blur. Boundaries prevent that erosion. They are a way of standing in your truth and saying, I am worthy of space, rest, respect, and autonomy. People may resist your boundaries, especially if they benefited from you not having any. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. You are not here to make everyone else comfortable while you suffer in silence. You are not responsible for others' reactions to your self-care. Your job is to protect your inner world so you can show up fully and authentically. You cannot be your best self if you're constantly overextended, overwhelmed, or overcommitted. Setting boundaries requires courage, especially if you're used to being a people pleaser. It can feel uncomfortable at first. You may worry about disappointing others or being misunderstood, but that discomfort is temporary. What's permanent is the peace that comes when you no longer betray yourself to make others happy. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about honoring yourself. They are an affirmation that your life is your own, and you get to decide what is allowed in and what is not. Boundaries also create healthier relationships. When you communicate your needs clearly, others know where they stand. They don't have to guess. They don't have to test. And those who truly care about you will respect the clarity. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect, not silent sacrifice. The people who value you will adjust, not abandon you when you draw the line. You don't have to explain your boundaries at length. A simple, I'm not available for that, or that doesn't work for me, is enough. Boundaries are not negotiations, they're standards. And when you hold those standards consistently, they become part of your identity. You stop chasing peace and start creating it. You stop proving yourself and start preserving yourself. You stop apologizing for having needs and start honoring them without hesitation. Boundaries are also key to self-growth. They create space for reflection, rest, and alignment. When you're not constantly overextended, you have time to build, to think, to recharge. You reclaim your energy and direct it toward the things that actually matter to you. You show up more grounded, more focused, and more in tune with your purpose. You don't need permission to set boundaries. You don't need everyone to agree with them. You just need to believe that you are worth protecting. And you are. Your peace is worth defending. Your time is worth managing. Your energy is worth preserving. Boundaries are how you protect your value in a world that will always ask for more. So set them with confidence, stand by them with strength, and let them become the foundation of a life that respects who you truly are. Not everyone is meant to understand or support your journey, and that truth is both a hard pill and a liberating one. As you grow, change, and evolve, some people will fall away. Some will question your decisions, and others may even try to discourage or distract you. It can be painful at first, especially when those people are friends, family, or individuals whose opinions once shaped your identity. But the deeper truth is that your path is yours alone, and it is not dependent on anyone else's approval or comprehension. Your journey is based on your inner calling, your values, your purpose, and the vision you carry that no one else can fully see. People can only understand from the level of awareness they currently live in. If someone hasn't had to reinvent themselves, they may not understand why you're willing to leave comfort behind. If someone has chosen fear their whole life, they may not understand your courage. If someone has settled, they may see your ambition as arrogance. And yet, none of that defines you or dictates what you're capable of. Their perspective is limited by their own experiences, not by your potential. It is natural to want support and understanding from those we care about, but placing the weight of your dreams on their approval is unfair to you and to them. They weren't given your vision, and they weren't called to your path. Expecting them to understand something they haven't lived is like asking someone to read a book you haven't handed them. They may never get it, and that's okay. You're not here to convince them. You're here to live the life that calls to you, fully and unapologetically. Releasing the need to be understood by everyone creates space for true alignment. It frees you to be authentic, not performative. You stop shaping your journey to be palatable and start shaping it to be powerful. You begin to listen more to your inner voice than the background noise of others' doubts or projections. You learn that misunderstanding doesn't equal rejection. Sometimes it simply means people are watching from a distance they're not ready to close. And that doesn't make them enemies, it just means their role in your story may be limited or different than you imagine. In reality, the ones who are meant to walk alongside you won't need endless explanations. They will sense your growth, respect your choices, and cheer you on, even if they don't fully understand every step. These people are rare, and when they show up, you'll know. But until then, keep walking. Don't pause your progress, waiting for applause. Don't dilute your vision trying to make it relatable. Don't shrink your steps to match the comfort level of someone who's afraid of their own expansion. Growth is lonely at times, but it's also where you find your deepest clarity and strength. The more you learn to validate your journey from within, the less you'll feel shaken by outside opinions. And eventually, you'll attract people who meet you on the level you've risen to, not the level you had to leave behind. They'll speak your language. They'll see your light. And you won't have to explain yourself to be respected. Not everyone will understand you, and that's not a sign to stop. It's a sign to trust yourself even more. The journey was given to you for a reason. Walk it boldly. Stay rooted in your truth, and let those who are meant to be part of your story find you along the way. Living in a way that makes your worth undeniable isn't about shouting your value from the rooftops, demanding recognition, or constantly explaining your intentions. It's about showing up every day in alignment with your purpose, values, and standards, regardless of who's watching. It's about letting your consistency, discipline, and results speak on your behalf. Worth is not something you ask others to see. It's something you demonstrate so clearly, so unapologetically, that it becomes impossible to ignore. There's something powerful about someone who doesn't waver when no one's clapping. When you move forward even without the audience, when you put in the effort even when you're exhausted, when you make the hard choices even when no one is praising you, that's where real worth is shaped. It's built in the quiet spaces, the daily decisions, the private moments where no one sees how hard you're working. Because those are the moments that separate those who just talk from those who transform. Action is what grounds intention. It's easy to say what you want, what you value, what you plan to do, but what you do consistently tells the truth about what you believe. If you want to be seen as dependable, be reliable in small ways every single day. If you want to be respected, carry yourself with self-respect even when it's inconvenient. If you want to be known for strength, demonstrate it in your discipline, in how you respond to setbacks, in how you hold yourself together when things fall apart. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not loud, it's not always celebrated, but it is what creates undeniable worth. People may not notice the first time you choose discipline over distraction. They may not see the early mornings, the long nights, the countless sacrifices, but over time the results become undeniable. Your presence shifts. Your growth becomes visible. Your reputation begins to reflect the truth of who you are, not because you told people, but because you showed them. This kind of worth doesn't beg for approval or chase validation. It stands tall, rooted in action. It becomes magnetic. It earns respect without asking for it. The people who once overlooked you will eventually have no choice but to see what's been growing behind the scenes. The ones who doubted you will watch your consistency build something they can't deny. And most importantly, you will no longer need anyone else to confirm your value, because you'll feel it in your own presence, in your own momentum, in the evidence you've created through your life. There is no shortcut to living with undeniable worth. It takes showing up on the days you don't feel like it. It takes keeping your word to yourself even when it's hard. It takes setting boundaries, staying focused, choosing growth over comfort. But with every small step, you strengthen your identity. You shape your reality. You become the kind of person who doesn't just wish, but works. Who doesn't just hope, but builds.